Absolutely. All good. Has it for you? Yeah. Yeah.
Good evening. Welcome to the Oconee County Board of Commissioners meeting. Today is Tuesday, December 2nd, 2025. After a moment of silence, we're going to ask Daniel Haygood to lead us in the pledge. Please stand.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item of business will be to approve the agenda. We would ask for an amendment to the agenda. Section 9, number 2 would be alcohol beverage ordinance amendment.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as submitted with the amendment to number 9.
Second.
We have a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item is statements, remarks from citizens. This is for anything not on tonight's agenda.
Good evening to all of you. My name is Rudy Rodriguez. I am one of the owners of Costa Alegre along with my family. I have been here before in front of y'all or some of y'all with other business ventures, and I am very happy to say that it always has turned out, and you guys have always been very supportive. As long as we do things right, you guys have always been there for us. That is the same reason why I'm here again. We have a discrepancy that we're requesting or asking for your assistance and looking at it. You know, I am very confident with you, all of you, because you look at the big picture, you understand, or most of you at least who have been business owners in the past understand how difficult some of these different things are. We just went through a 2-year construction period it was very difficult to go through. It's done, so we're thankful. So we're hoping that if with your assistance and if we could resolve these few little issues, we can continue to thrive and continue to support the community. One last quick thing. We were fortunate a few minutes ago, there's some young ladies that are reporting here from University of Georgia from journalist majors. And I wanted to make it clear to them that the point is not that a small business like us is being abused or nothing like that. On the contrary, but we wanted to be clear that a business like us can exist and can thrive due to the assistance of people like them. So just to be clear. And also for all of our customers that are here in support, like I said, we're not conflicted people. Thank you for your support. Thank you, not only there, but by being here. That's all. Thank you.
Any statements, remarks from commissioners? Yeah, we do have, you noticed a big crowd if you're a regular attendee here. So we do have a class from University of Georgia here. So it's not a big zoning issue. So people here with zoning cases, they're not here for you. So they're just here to learn. So.
And I just want to add, I hope that y'all get a passing grade for showing up, because y'all would deserve it to sit through one of our meetings.
All right, with that, we'll move on to approval of the minutes for November 4th and November 25th.
Make a motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
Second. Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item is a presentation by Kemper Sports, and this will be on Dawson Park. So, Steve, if you want to come up and introduce your team and.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. I'm Steve Gorris, the Senior Vice President of Kemper Sports. With me today, and I'm going to let them take the presentation because they're the experts in the room. Richard Stiffinger, who leads all of our analysis work on any new projects coming out of the ground. So we look at market studies, feasibility studies, the things that we're working for you all. Richard took the lead on that. And then Will Spence, who is one of our regional operating executives who will oversee this account when it comes to fruition. So I'll let them take it from here.
Thank you, Steve. Good evening. Want to kind of cover the opportunity to show you what we've been working with the county representatives at Dawson Park about the facility overview and a bit of the opportunity. We're going to talk a little bit about who Kemper Sports is. We'll look at a little bit of the market overview, some of the work we've done, looked at the existing facilities within the marketplace, facility spaces, discuss financial and economic impact performance, some next steps, and then have plenty of Q&A opportunities at the end. Kemper Sports, we've been in business almost 50 years. As you can see from the notes up here, we've been running 10,000 team members, 215 plus facilities in our portfolio, working in 40 different states and a lot of different municipal clients. Kemper Sports is really 5 different legs, as you can see, primarily in golf. You'll see the daily courses, private clubs. We run a number of destinations, some of the top golf course destinations in the country, Streamsong, Bandon Dunes, Sand Valley, things like that. Youth and sports recreation venues is what we're representing here tonight. We work with municipalities and other organizations to bring sports facilities alive, not just from development, but also through full operations. And then we also run another division, which is called Kemper Sports Live. It's run live events. This past weekend, we had 2 events. One was the Maui Classic, and one was the Battle for Atlantis. And we also own and operate the McDonald's All-American basketball game. So, as you can see from this is kind of where we're based out of on the sports venue side. We have a number of facilities throughout different parts of the country. Again, from indoor to outdoor facilities and all across all different sports. I'm going to turn it over to Richard now. There we go.
So now we'll get into the findings from our feasibility assessment. So we were hired by the county to do a feasibility assessment to determine the financial, operational, and economic impact performance of Dawson Park as we've envisioned it to date. So we'll start with the market overview. Looking at the regional market, what we would define, we got a couple different drive times up there, both 2.5 hours as well as 4 hours. We classify that as the regional market from where we would, want to draw participants from for a variety of different youth tournaments and events. That's where we can reliably expect people to travel in from, stay overnight, and spend in the community and participate in a tournament and event, and then drive out on any given weekend. So we've got some insights there from some benchmarks of some different characteristics that we like to see from sports tourism markets, and how the county stacks up against it. And so what we're seeing here is, the county's in a very strategic location near a major metro and other major metros surrounding it. There's 22.7 million people within a 4-hour drive time radius. That's a densely populated regional market that has access to major transportation. And then the Southeast in general it's an established sports tourism ecosystem, both in the county from all the different club teams that are already traveling outside the county to participate in these tournaments, as well as all the other club teams and tournaments rights holders located to the Southeast. So we believe very strongly that the county has the ability to establish itself as a destination within the broader region for sports tourism. Looking at some of the existing facilities, we've broken this out in a couple different ways. So we'll start with the local facilities. And so there's a couple different drive times here. Really, the outer band is 60 minutes. And that's what we would classify as the local market, where we can reliably expect people to drive in on a weekday, Monday through Friday, participate in a league game, a league practice, a camper clinic, and drive out. And so what we're seeing from the local multi-purpose field facilities, and again, these are soccer, flag football, lacrosse, rugby facilities. Mid-sized complexes are trending within this region, and there's a growing demand for long field sports outside of soccer, such as lacrosse, flag football, rugby, ultimate frisbee. And what we're seeing particularly from the playing surface, not only at the national level, but on the regional level as well and the local level, is there's a rapid adoption of synthetic turf because of the year-round play that it has, and the ability to run more games over a weekday for local teams, as well as the ability to draw additional tournaments and events. And what we're noticing is modern infrastructure to support sports tourism, tournaments and events such as lighting, parking, really those spectator amenities. Those are located closer to Atlanta. So we really see that there's a gap to fill within the county and in the surrounding pockets with some modern infrastructure as well. On the local indoor court side, what we're really seeing is, there's a dominance of community centers and YMCAs and not a traditional local indoor sport facility where you would see a variety of different, basketball courts or volleyball courts or other indoor court-based activities taking place. The qualities of the facilities vary within the county as well as the surrounding areas. And so, we definitely see that as an opportunity as well to develop an indoor sport complex really focused on indoor court sports as a differentiator within the community, because there's a service gap currently. From the regional side, again, this will expand out to 4 hours. So we looked at facilities that have the ability to host outdoor multi-purpose field tournaments and events within about a 4-hour drive time threshold. And so what we're seeing from these different facilities is there's an integration of multi-sport field design. So not only the ability to accommodate soccer, but has the ability to accommodate other long field sports such as flag football, rugby, lacrosse, anything that can be played over a long field. There's an emphasis on state-of-the-art lighting in order to get more games to drive your team counts over any given weekend. And there's an investment in youth development as well. On the regional indoor court side, so these are indoor court facilities that have the ability to host a basketball or volleyball or indoor court-based sport as well. We analyze facilities within a 4-hour drive time threshold as well. So the trends that we're seeing here, again, very similar to the outdoor field side, is there's an emphasis on being able to be multi-sport flexible, not only accommodating basketball, but volleyball, as well as other non-traditional type of ball and stick sports such as pickleball, wrestling, cheerleading, dance, gymnastics. Community-centric design and programming, emphasis on quality and experience as well. and really utilizing these different types of developments to be the anchor development for broader mixed-use developments from all the different economic activity that will come from the development of this complex and hosting the variety of tournaments and events. In terms of facility spaces, so the two goals for Dawson Park is first and foremost to serve the local community, enhance the current offerings offered by Oconee County Parks and Recreation, as well as look at if there's any opportunities to add additional programming opportunities, and then capitalize on sports tourism. So hosting out-of-market teams over the weekends to drive non-local spending in the community, drive hotel room nights, and drive economic impact. And so for phase one, what we looked at is the development of 10 full-size outdoor multi-purpose fields. And again, I'll stress that, those have the ability to accommodate not just soccer, but flag football, lacrosse, field hockey, other long field sports. In total, it's about 92 acres, and it has the necessary parking spaces to support 10 outdoor fields. Future phases, when those come online is potentially TBD, but we've also analyzed, the development of 6 additional outdoor multi-purpose fields. So once those come fully realized, that's 16 outdoor multi-purpose fields. The development of an approximately 90,000 square foot indoor sport complex. And so what's included in that, it has the ability to support 8 basketball courts that are cross-lined with 16 volleyball courts. But it's also a flat, open, unobstructed space. So it has the ability to accommodate wrestling, cheerleading, dance, pickleball, also, community events and your non-traditional sports trade shows and everything like that whenever a tournament and event isn't taking place. Cost is currently TBD. We're working alongside the architect to finalize that right now, both for phase one as well as future phases. So we don't have a number to provide to date for that. In terms of the financial and economic impact performance, we analyzed 4 different models. These are 4 different development scenarios. A couple of them are outdoor fields only, and a couple of them are indoor and outdoor. But really the main difference between these models is, do they include synthetic turf on the outdoor fields, or do they include natural grass? We've also assumed that Oconee County Parks and Recreation will have usage of this facility, and any additional programming that we offer within the complex will not be competitive with any current offerings. It'll be additive and complementary and new programming to the community. So if we're looking at the financial performance here, this is year 5 when we would expect the facility to be at maturity. And I'll preface this by saying the goal for any type of sports tourism development like we've envisioned is to get as close to break even as possible by year 5 operationally. If we're looking at the EBITDA number, which is the operational performance of the facility before you factor in interest, taxes, depreciation, or amortization. So I'll isolate the synthetic turf field models there, and we get to that goal of reaching approximately break even in both synthetic turf models, indoor and outdoor model, as well as the outdoor only model as well. We have the ability to drive additional revenue from the synthetic turf fields, from charging higher rental rates for outside rights holders to come in. We have the ability to run more games over the weekdays, and we have the ability to host more tournaments and events because you don't need to rest the fields. Say you have a 100-team tournament come in one weekend on a natural grass surface, you got to rest that the next week in order to give those fields some time to heal and repair. On synthetic turf, you can run those in back-to-back weekends, right? That drives additional revenue, that drives additional performance, as well as economic impact. And the other thing that I'll call out is underneath EBITDA, we've budgeted for capital replacement and all the different development scenarios. So on an annual basis, we're making the recommendation that the county should budget and have a reserve protected to address short-term and long-term capital replacement items when they do arise. In terms of the economic impact, we've got this broken out in a couple different ways. First and foremost, a number of events. And based on the models here, these range from anywhere from 19 events all the way to 62 events. And so in similar message on the financial performance related to synthetic turf performing better, economic impact also performs better because we have the ability to host more tournaments and events. So if we're looking at the indoor and outdoor model for synthetic turf fields, right, we have the ability to host, and the market dictates that we can support 62 different events taking place. And this year, sometimes on those weekends, right, we'll have indoor events taking place the same day that outdoor events are taking place as well. There's the demand for 193,000 non-local days. So that's non-local visitors arriving to the county, staying overnight and spending. That wouldn't be here otherwise for the development of this type of complex. There's also the demand for over 55,000 different 55,000 room nights at year 5. And what that results in is over $26 million in direct economic impact. And I'll add a caveat that that's direct spending. That doesn't account for the induced or indirect effect of recycling of that first dollar in. This is strictly isolating the first dollar in, which is $26.5 million. And then looking at what that drives from an incremental tax revenue from hotel occupancy tax as well as sales tax, we're looking just under $950,000. And we've got that modeled out for the different development scenarios. In terms of, why synthetic turf is able to drive a higher return financially, why it's able to drive higher economic impact, we've got a couple different reasons listed out there, but, I'll touch upon two of the most important ones is, as I mentioned, it unlocks more tournament inventory for us. We can run more tournaments over any given year because we don't have the need to rest fields. And it maximizes our field availability and playable hours. There's no rainouts, there's less rainouts. We can run the fields for a longer period, an extended period of time on synthetic turf versus natural grass, which improves our revenue stability, enhances the participant experience, not having to worry about rainouts, both from somebody that came all the way 3 hours to participate in a tournament, as well as a tournament's rights holder. They know that their games can take place whenever they're coming to a complex that has synthetic turf. In terms of the model key insights, we've got 5 key insights here. As I mentioned before, a really healthy goal for a sports tourism type of development is to get as close to break even operationally as possible. And that's because these types of developments are overbuilt relative to the local market size. And so there's a certain threshold of number of courts or number of fields that are needed in order to be able to attract these types of tournaments and events. So there's a trade-off between financial performance and the ability to capture that non-local visitation and spending. As I mentioned before, we really believe that there's a positive sports tourism opportunity here due to the untapped potential, as well as the strategic location of the county to major MSAs, ability to access major thoroughfares, and the densely populated market that's surrounding it. The county benefits from seasonality and climate advantage, right? This is a year-round playable complex where we could have tournaments and events taking place 12 months out of the year. If we're looking at the Midwest, right, sometimes those complexes only have the ability to run outdoor events 8 or 9 months of the year, right? So their window to capitalize on economic impact is much shorter compared to a more favorable climate such as what the county's in. The turf model performance, it definitely are the models that has the highest performance, both from financials as well as economic impact, due to the lower annual maintenance cost that's associated with maintaining turf on an annual basis. You don't have to water it, you don't have to mow it, and you don't have to tend to it as much as natural grass. You have the ability to host more tournaments and events and drive additional revenue compared to the grass models. And, we expect collaborative model adjustments alongside the county and stakeholders. As I mentioned, we're still in design. The budget hasn't been finalized yet. So as tweaks are made to the design and plan, we'll work alongside in lockstep with the county and stakeholders to make sure that the models are updated to update the most current conditions of the park. In terms of next steps, we've identified the immediate next steps post-feasibility study coming out of this, leading up to construction of the facility. So we would make the recommendation to begin park branding and marketing efforts of Dawson Park, determine synthetic turf versus natural grass for phase 1 outdoor fields, finalize the facility design, finalize the funding structure, confirm the program mix and operating model, prepare for construction and project delivery. And then, as I mentioned, we've got phase 1, which is the outdoor fields and support amenities for the outdoor complex. We've also got some items earmarked for future consideration and future phasing, right? So what does that phasing plan look like in solidifying that phasing plan for the future planned amenities? That takes us through everything we wanted to talk about today, so we'll open it up to questions.
Any questions from commissioners?
Thank you. Of course, there needs to be a lot of, I guess, what you say, conversation in the community about what your findings are. I had a couple of questions, and I'm just going, since you gave us so many different options, I'm just going to focus on the turf fields.
Sure.
Outdoor only model.
Okay.
You want to pull that up? I guess I've been told that sports was a moneymaker. We'd make a lot of money, but every option you showed in your study showed in red. Now, I was in banking. I don't like numbers that are in red. So help me understand it so what you're saying is that the net effect to the taxpayers of Oconee County would be a cost that you estimated in this model and all the other models. Is that correct?
Well, not necessarily. So, as I mentioned, in order to make a certain threshold in the sports tourism industry, right, you have to have a certain amount of fields located in one location, a certain amount of courts.
Right.
So when you do that, you're overbuilding for what the local market would dictate. And so, a healthy goal for any types of these complexes that are municipally owned and operated would be to try to achieve operationally break even by year 5. And so, as you pointed out, in every model, operationally, there's expected to require an operating subsidy. However, where the trade-off is in the economic impact performance here.
Okay.
And so if we look at this slide, in all models, we're generating over $10 million of economic impact if the county decided to go grass fields outdoor only,
Right.
and over $26 million in economic impact if, synthetic turf and indoor and outdoor was
I'm
developed.
gonna come back to that just a second.
sure.
What your model is showing is facilities that meet our current needs and just our organic growth of our recreational programs. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Is the plans that you're looking at, is that things that will meet our current needs and our organic growth of our community? I'm not talking about visitors. I'm just talking about within the county. Are you saying that what we're proposing is sufficient enough, or have you made a judgment on that?
What is being proposed is sufficient enough to meet the current local demand for parks and recreation and local community programming, as in addition to the expected growth that's expected.
That's
to
what
come.
I call organic growth, just
Yes, sir.
within.
Yes.
Okay. Now go back to your model there, and you got when you're estimating total hotel room nights. Help me understand how y'all came to that.
Yeah, so we've modeled a variety of different tournaments and events that are going to. So we'll isolate the indoor and outdoor field model, right? So there's 62 different events. Each one of those events are a different size and scale, different amount of teams that are coming that results in a different amount of players, as well as the expected travelers that are expected to come with them. Some of those will participate from the county, but some of those will also arrive from outside. So we've isolated those non-local visitors, and based on how many event days each event is taking place, we've modeled what the market would demand from a hotel room night perspective. So these are truly non-local visitors that are coming from outside the county and the surrounding areas to stay overnight, right? That's what the market would demand. So they're truly non-local visitors, that it's not, existing county visitors and everything. So we've isolated it to really just focus on non-local.
All right, hold that thought.
Mhm.
Now, your total direct economic impact, those numbers that you're making assumptions, that's like buying gas or going to restaurants. Is that where the total impact
That's right. There's an average daily expenditure that we would expect every non-local visitor to spend. That
Wow.
includes their hotel room night. That includes their transportation fees, whether that's gas or Uber or whatever it may be. That also includes groceries, retail, eating out at the restaurant. So it's a combination of a variety of different spending sources.
So in y'all's experience, how far does that economic impact, I mean, is it localized to the facility, or is there like a 10-mile radius? How do you draw this direct economic impact? What's your,
Yes, this would be spending outside of the four walls of the facility or the fields of the complex. So this would be the expected impact to the local community outside of the complex. And so this would be to the local restaurants, this would be to the local hotels, the local retail outlets, and other places as well.
so that's there's no geographic boundaries in your assumptions?
There is, so it would be about probably what we classify as non-local would be probably about an hour and a half to 2 hour window of, anybody who comes from outside of that is what we would classify as non-local.
So what you're saying is that direct economic impact is not just localized, but it's regional.
I think he was classifying where we draw the line of what we consider an out of towner. I think what I want to make sure it's clear is that this is the economic impact that's available to us to grab as the county, right? So we're going to generate a need and demand for goods and services to the tune of $26 million. The actual crowds that come in to visit, that spreads out until they get their wants and needs met, right? So what we typically see happen is that we'll have leakage outside of the county for those economic impact dollars until we get enough hotels, restaurants, entertainment options, et cetera, to capture them within the county limits. Then we'll start to capture more of those. So usually once we announce a project like this or it starts to go vertical, we'll see more development happen, and that allows us to capture more of those dollars. But it's an important balancing act that we need the mechanisms by which to capture people's spending. If we don't have it here, they will spend it elsewhere.
Well, that was my point. Let me, had something pulled up. Let me find it. Let's go back to the final question, or it may create more questions, how that goes. When you talk about the hotel room nights, that's for 5 years that you've got up there now, but I think you had some where you showed for 1 year for hotel room night.
That's right. That's the year 5 numbers. So that's
Okay.
that's what we would expect at year 5
Okay.
annually.
So help me understand how many rooms does that equate to? I mean, you said nights, but I mean, how many rooms do we need to accommodate 55,183 room nights?
I don't have that number off the top of my head, but we'll get that to you.
Well, where I'm headed is right now we have, unfortunately, one of our motels just recently closed, the Luxury Inn, but hey, what are y'all laughing about? We have one current motel or hotel, and it has 99 rooms. So can we squeeze the 55,000 nights
No.
into 99 rooms?
No, we will not. We will certainly have we'll have demand leakage for hotels until our inventory goes up, and that is a combination, right? It won't all be hotel. There'll be some Airbnb and VRBOs, those type of rentals, but there's gonna cause demand for more hotel inventory for sure.
Okay, so how many hotels and motels are we going to have to build to accommodate?
And I think that's the number I owe you coming out of today.
Okay.
I don't want to say something untrue, and I don't have the numbers in front of me. How many rooms?
All right. Well, I'm just curious, because your premise is that without the impact, it's going to be a cost to the citizens of the county. But if we do what you're saying, is it going to benefit the citizens of Oconee County, or is it going to benefit another, municipality or another, community somewhere between here and Atlanta?
Yeah, I think it's our role to work together and with your economic development team as well to try to capture as much of those dollars as we can. I will say I don't want to lose sight on the fact that there's also just a community benefit part to this. I mean, we're going to be providing, services, recreational services through your Parks and Rec department, to a community that needs it. I mean, one of the things we were very impressed with was how robust your Parks and Rec programming is and how well utilized those
Yeah.
programs are. And the fact is they don't have enough space today. So those are amenities that as, a municipality or jurisdiction that we want to provide to our residents. And frankly, they're demanding them today. It used to be nice sports facilities was kind of a nice to have, but now people are making decisions on where to live and where to move to because their kids have places to recreate. So there's a balance there, right? So our goal is always to be fiscally responsible and try to generate as much revenue as we can so that we are not burdening our constituents, your constituents. But there is a balance of providing that service for the community as well.
So would you say, in your professional opinion, that these numbers that you're providing as far as the direct economic impact, is that just icing on the cake?
I don't think it's icing on the cake. I mean, it's a big part of the story. I think it's and/or it used to be when we first started building these facilities, 15 years ago, that we were making decisions and we were going to focus on community or tourism. And it was because we had to really learn how to program them well. I think we have figured out the right balance now and how to really drive community access Monday through Friday and then drive tourism on weekends and then during the week in the summertime. So it's both and we have to be able to do both. So I wouldn't call it icing on the cake. I think it's an important part of the total equation. It's a big part of why you guys are considering this, I believe.
Well, I guess where I'm headed is in our community deliberation is, I think it's more important to me to know what the bottom line is as far as what it would cost the citizens of Oconee County to do this.
Sure.
And if we know for a fact that it's going to, we're going to have to supplement with tax dollars from some other source.
Yep.
Then that needs to be part of the discussion, so the citizens would have the full information that they need to support something like that. That's why I said that this direct, indirect, I called it icing on the cake. I mean, that, you cannot assure us that those 55,000 room nights are going to be at the local Spring Hill Suites.
That's right.
That's right. Now, there's certainly others planned to be built. I think there's Guy, right off the top of my head, I think you had came up with a number of several hundred more rooms, but those have just been permitted. They not permitted, they've been approved to zoning, but they haven't started building them.
Yes, sir.
So we got a ways to go to, I assume, to get to all 55,000 room nights in Oconee County, right?
We got a little ways to go, but we're in the phase 1 right now, which is planning and having these conversations,
Yeah.
and then we'll put a plan and a map together to get there.
Well, since this is our first opportunity to actually ask you questions, I'm sorry that, that hit you, but,
That's good.
with that, what I would like to know is, about your assumptions about how many hotel rooms equate to that 55,000 number.
Yeah, we owe you that, and I'll make sure you get it coming out of this meeting.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
If I can
Thank you.
kind of jump in here for just a minute. To be fair to Kemper, there was never any conversation with them on the size of Dawson Park. Remember, we talked about doing the LES. We basically, how much can we fit on this thing?
Yeah.
And then as we were seeing what it was going to cost to do, and that's when we started talking to Kemper about bringing in. So I think if you look at, you just take the revenue, not, if we go ahead and build Dawson Park like it's planned, we're going to have every bit of expense with no revenue.
Right.
So the taxpayer's still on the hook. It's just for a matter of how much. Now, we can look internally at their numbers for expenses and kind of, some of that will go down because it's not going to be as much usage. We can give you a number of, it's going to cost the taxpayer something either way to maintain those fields. And because we're doing that now, even with OVP and Hermancy, there's a taxpayer supplement to operate those.
And that's all I want to know is what's the bottom line to the taxpayers of the county. And that's why I call all this other is icing on the cake, because those dollars don't actually, those are what benefit to the restaurant owners, the gas stations, the hotel owners. Isn't that correct?
So if you look at the 5-year with synthetic and go back to that previous slide.
I got it.
He wants to go back to
Oh,
the,
The expenses to operate the synthetic fields and the indoor model is 1.2 million. I'm reading that right.
yeah, it's 1.2 million in cost of goods and then an additional 2.5 in operating expenses.
So those two numbers together would be the cost to operate it without any revenue.
3.6.
What is that's in red. That's,
It's going to be red either way.
but that's the number I'm more interested in.
But yeah, so we're either looking at the, what is it,
3.6.
3.6
Mhm.
or 178,000. That's the trade-off.
Actually, threes.
Well, I think just, we need to be prepared to be able to, in community conversations, justify, any expense. But I just don't want to make people assume that it's going to be a moneymaker, which we've had people tell us that it's a moneymaker. Moneymaker for who? Yeah.
Right. Well, we're not. I don't think I've said that. I think what we're trying to do is reduce that 3.6 million down. That we've got these 16 fields and we got the 8 basketball courts. How do we generate money to
That's fine.
supplement, keep the taxpayer from supplementing more? So
That's fine. And that's why I'm looking for the bottom line without the icing.
exactly.
Yeah.
178.
Yeah.
Versus 3.6.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. But I would also say, we got to do something in Parks and Rec. If we built another OVP building, we're going to be talking about the same problem. I've been an advocate for at least 8 courts. As much fields as we can get just to take care of business we got right now with Parks and Rec. And I'll give you, for instance, I've got a 7-year-old grandson that plays about anything he can play. But he's playing basketball, and like most counties in Georgia, we have to use school property, their facilities. Our school system's growing in what they offer. For instance, my granddaughter is at one of our middle schools. They've got 4 basketball teams. Got 2 girls, 2 boys basketball team. That's great. But what it does, it puts tremendous pressure on one middle school gym. And then you got a lot of them using school gyms at Parks and Rec. Well, my son-in-law gets a call the other day, I think Parks and Rec. Y'all can't use middle school gym tonight because something else going on. So they got we have no backup. That's the point. We have no backup. If the school system expands their growth, where are we going to go? Where are we going? Where are we going to take these kids? We got kids that are on more advanced programming. They've kind of gone past Parks and Rec. They're going out of county to practice. And we can keep doing that. And I would say, too, everything we do is subsidized by the taxpayers in some shape, form, or fashion. Always has been. You can't charge enough people to use Parks and Rec to pay for the program. That's just part of the deal. You pay taxes, you pay sales taxes, you pay this tax or that tax. We try to keep it as low as possible. But we got to do something about facilities. And building one more gym ain't going to cut it. That ain't going to cut it. Now, I look at it, gentleman that got up and talked about the restaurant, what we're talking about is going to help him. It's going to help him. It's going to help Dairy Queen. It's going to help all these small businesses. I don't know what the dollar amount's gonna be. But I look at, let's do what we gotta do to protect our kids. I'll give you another for instance. My daughter, who's got the two kids here in Oconee County, they're playing soccer down in Savannah. That's $1,000 out of Oconee County. That's going to Chatham County. I don't know how much Chatham County makes on their tournament play, but they just took $1,000 from every family that was down there with an Oconee County kid playing soccer. And can we match some of that? I think so. Can it help a restaurateur? I think so. I just don't know what the bottom line is. If y'all are wizards and you can do that, that's fine. But I think if people come in to Oconee County and we have things to offer them, places that eat, I understand that one of the best things you can have is girls volleyball. Because the mamas run those programs and they are not going to cook anything while they're out of town. They're going to go out to eat every meal. So you want to give them a place to spend it. And so I think it, as much as it is to help our kids, Parks and Rec, we can also use that to help the restaurant. They can go into Costco. They can go into Walmart, whatever they got to do, and we'll get some money out of it. That's the second part. So I just see it traveling with, following my granddaughter. We're going out of town a lot. And we're spending money in Habersham County. We're spending in DeKalb County. We don't get them over here. So I think it's what the government should do is try to help business in their communities to survive. But either way, we got to do something to get space for Parks and Rec. That's it. All I'm gonna say about this.
All right.
Well, I mean, Mr. Horton, you're certainly correct. We do need the facilities. My point is that we just need to make sure that we're realize that, what it's going to cost because I'm in favor of keeping, property taxes as low as possible. We've been very good about in the last several years been able to do that. But I don't want anybody to leave tonight thinking that this number for the direct economic impact is going to offset any losses or what it's going to cost. And I agree, everything is cost the taxpayers. It's not your money or my money as commissioners, it's the taxpayers' money. And I just want to make sure that when we leave here tonight that people understand that these things do cost money and we're not in it for the profit, but we just need to make wise decisions with all the information possible, make sure we do have an informed decision when we vote on it.
What part of the bottom line is regardless of the tourism thing, this county commission has got to do something for the Parks and Rec space. That is given, we're not going to be able to run from it. Because if the school system shuts us down because of their growth, we got no place to go. Some counties might, but we don't. We just don't have the space. And so it's probably going to be expensive. But I will say this too. This county, I've been on the county commission. This is my finishing up 17 years. And y'all know better than me because y'all all original Oconee County citizens. I come from Southeast Georgia. But we didn't have squat. We didn't have squat in Oconee County. County commission struggled with everything they did. We have gotten better and better and better at bringing in money to help lower the millage rate. I think we're in a better position. I'm not going to say it's perfect or anything, but we are a lot better than it was when I first got on the county commission. a lot better when I was on the school board. So we have done better year after year after year because people like to come to Oconee County and shop. And so that has made a big difference. And I certainly don't want to have to go into the property taxes. I'd rather do it by sales tax, but no, again, we're gonna have to do something, and that building probably ain't gonna be cheap. I think we're in better shape than we were.
Anybody else with any questions?
I just got a general question about the 5-year plan. The 5-year plan, is that, in your experience, based on all the work you've done in previously, does it take that long before that rotating door, that revolving door continues where you get the same organizations over and over a year? I mean, they're getting a year out. I mean, no, with a facility like this, if it comes to fruition, people are going to lock it in 2 years out if they can. There's no question that. So that revolving door is just going to be just jammed the whole time because people are going to want to come. Is it taking 5 years to do that? Is that why you're doing a 5-year projection?
We use a 5-year projection just so that we can plan accordingly and really financially, so you all can plan accordingly. We start selling events at facilities like this about 2 years prior. So when construction hits the ground, like first shovel, we'll start selling events to try to pre-book. We usually see facilities start to stabilize around year 3. Because even if we book an event, it might start, let's say it starts as a 6-court event, the next year it's 7, next year it's 8. So we want to see some growth. Same thing with the local programming. That takes, I always have an analogy. It's like a barge. It takes a little bit to get moving, but once it gets moving, you can't stop it. So usually year 3 is where we see it to start to like not grow quite as fast. But by year 5, now you're just growing like through price increases. You're stable, you're pretty full, your utilization number is as high as pretty much you're going to get it. So that's really where we like to see that year 5 number is. All right, we've kind of maxed out here. This is where we see it going long term.
Thank you.
That's a question.
I got one. I won't keep adding to our time here, but one, with the synthetic turf, how many staff is it going to take to run that type of operation?
Do you know off the top of your head? We put a full staffing model together for this, and I'm not sure exactly off the top of my head, but usually we have like 6 or 7 full-time people, and then a circulation, probably over 100 of part-time between coaches, referees, umpires, maintenance staff, food and beverage staff, etc. So 7 full-time salaries, plus or minus. Don't hold me to that. It's in the full report that you'll get, and then about 100 part-time staff.
Thank you. And then in terms of, it looks like you've hit on the outdoor. Is that, in your opinion, what the best bang for the buck is, the outdoor facilities at this point?
No, I wouldn't say that. I think it's just how we approach the project together with the team here. We've always thought that we'd have to put infrastructure in first and really work on the civil side of the site. And that would be the fastest part to kind of get done and open. It's certainly, I think, one of your bigger needs today, like today. So we figured we could open that and start from there. Bang for the buck, yes, it's less expensive to build and you're going to drive good economic impact through it. I mean, I think truthfully that is the case. But ultimately what the indoor facility does is it really allows you to do year-round programming. All sports have seasonality to it. And then you draw from some different audiences as well.
Going to the building side of it, I know there's some options of maybe public-private partnerships. Do you guys have experience with that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of different ways the capital stacks get built for these. Private-public partnership is one of those. We have experience ourselves as the private partner in some of these. We've put private-public partnerships together. I think the one thing that I always caution folks that are looking at it is that as soon as you have private enterprise putting money into a deal, the focus shifts a little bit, right? The private enterprise focuses on profitability. That's not necessarily your number one mandate, right? It's providing service to your citizens. So we just have to make sure that those conversations are had with whoever the private partner is early, understand what the limitations are going to be within the programming, how much space and time is actually going to Parks and Rec at no cost, things like that could impact the private sector. But as long as those conversations are had early and we understand what the potential returns are and everyone's aligned, we've seen them be very successful. We're seeing more and more of those actually today than ever.
Okay, thank you. And then one last question on the, you mentioned civil, and civil is always a big part of the cost. And would you recommend, or do you need to do further study of doing the entire site as opposed to, phase it in and then trying to piecemeal the site work?
The entire site as the current, the 90 acres we're looking at, or the entire 200 plus acres that exist?
Well, I would say where the indoor facilities and outdoor would be, not necessarily moving to the full 16 fields, but
Yeah.
at least to the current plan.
Do you want to take that one, or do you want me to take the plan? I'll say this. I think we are right now, we've been working with the architecture group. We're about 50% through design, and we're trying to see what all the different costs are going to come in at. And then we'll figure out the exact phasing plan at that point in time. It could very well be that doing civil and being pad ready everywhere makes sense in an early stage. I think the plan right now is to do most of that and the infrastructure work in phase one, so that they're pad ready for the other sites. Is that right?
Yeah, we're operating with their civil engineer on the assumption that the best economy of scale is to do site balance for the entire site at one time, pad grade everything, including fields that maybe aren't potentially done on the first phase, but have them all prepped, ready, just so we have that mobilization, handle everything at one time, have one mass erosion control plan and review at the same time, just to get that balance, and that gives us more options. Now, that may change as we get further along into construction, but that's sort of the direction that our civil engineer and that we're operating under currently.
Question.
And that kind of gives you the best bang for the buck.
Yeah.
If you're moving dirt.
Yeah, we don't have to remobilize and yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you. Thank y'all very much.
Oh, thank you guys. Appreciate you having us.
Thank you so much.
The next item is a presentation of the fiscal year 2025 audit by Rushton.
As a father of three, no truer words were ever said, Commissioner Horton, than when my wife's out of town, there is no cooking going on at my house. My name is Justin Burris. I'm the audit manager. And as you said, we just almost wrapped up your fiscal year 2025 audit. The reason I say almost is I believe Melissa's let y'all know that we'll be presenting a draft today. So I want to make sure y'all understand why we're doing a draft. So when a municipality is fortunate enough to get at least $750,000 of federal grants and federal expenditures in the same year, they're lucky enough to get a second audit, and that's specifically on those federal dollars. Well, the feds dictate how that audit is to be done through what's called a compliance supplement that tells us how we're supposed to audit those dollars. They were already slightly behind, but we typically have that compliance supplement before we get started. The government shutdown impacted it some, but so instead of getting that before we started, we actually got that about a week ago. So we've done this long enough that while we were doing the normal course of the audit, we anticipate what that compliance supplement's going to look like. We audit accordingly, and then when that supplement came in, we immediately started saying, okay, what's our differences? We need to do any additional work. Fortunately, there wasn't really anything to do there, so we're in that phase of crossing our T's, dotting our I's type things that we've got to do procedurally to be able to final issue, and I expect that to be any day. So I wanted to disclose that before we got going. Again, after we finalized, you'll get a complete audit report. This is your typical, the 130, 140 page sleeping material that you'll have. But the presentation, as usual, will have page number references, the items that we go over. If you were curious later, hey, I want to see where that is in the report, you'd be able to do so. All right. So of the entire document that we produce, yes, the financials are a big aspect of that. Ultimately, what you guys are paying us for is to produce an opinion. That's our audit opinion. On pages 1 through 3, you would see that. pleased to announce that we had an unmodified opinion after your fiscal year 25 audit. Most refer to that as a clean audit, if you will. But basically what that says is, as a reader could look at these financials with confidence that the numbers that they are reading are accurate, with a high degree of accuracy. Also talks about auditing standards, which I will touch on later in my presentation. I'd love to say that Rushton comes in here and audits the way we would like to. It'd be much easier, but we audit to a standard by the state. The letter also talks about responsibilities. That's a big part here. So yes, we produce these financial statements with the help of your staff, but ultimately it's Oconee County's financial statements, and you have to accept responsibility for those. It's our responsibility to give an opinion on those, which we have, and I mentioned was a clean opinion this year. All right, on pages 15, 16, and 17, you'll see the government-wide statements. That's the statements that's trying to give an overarching view of what's happened in your government. The statement of net position, that's fancy way of government lingo, that's your balance sheet, right? The statement of activities, this is your income statement, that present the results of the operations as the county as a whole, including your component units, health department, things like that. Of the items on that statement of net position, one thing I want to go into a little bit of detail on is your government-wide net position. Think about that like residual net income, so to speak. That's the difference between your assets and your liabilities. What's left over is the easiest way to describe that. So you've got your different buckets there. You'll see that this shaded the different colors. And you'll see the chart over the last 3 years. But in 2025, the county had just over $263 million in total net position. $157 million of that is your net investment in capital assets. So that's what you've invested in Oconee County, so to speak. $39 million is restricted. And then 66.9 million rounds out the unrestricted portion that's for budget, kind of, if you will. So again, a lot going on in Oconee County, but we're going to touch on things that we feel bang for your buck. I heard a term used earlier by one of you, but we're going to touch on the general fund next. 18, 21, 24, and 25 pages would show your balance sheet and income statement on those general fund. But your revenues were around $46.5 million. That's an increase of $2.1 million over the prior year, roughly about 4.8%. You'll see the main driving factors of that change over the prior year listed below. You'll see the amount that property taxes increased there, about $173,000. Sales tax is up about $600,000. Charges for services related to your sheriff's office. I looked into that. Some of that had to do with agreement y'all got with the Board of Education and how y'all supplement with SRO officers. Y'all are reimbursed with that. That doesn't necessarily offset expenses that comes in as revenue. Contributions increased about around 119,000. Sometimes folks say governments get contributions. A little bit confused by that, but in this case, yes, governments do get contributions, but here this could be things like donations to your sheriff's office foundation or various items like that. But there was a slight increase there as well. Your expenditures were roughly $38.9 million in the general fund. That was an increase of around 12.6%, roughly $4.3 million. And again, you'll see the main driving factors there down below. IT, operations increased around 192,000, law enforcement. So we've got various changes down there. One thing I will mention, since the law enforcement picked up a large dollar amount, a lot of that has to do with, not to get too far into the accounting weeds, but when you invest in something that's long-term in nature, let's just use round numbers here. If you buy capital assets, in this case, it was a subscription agreement. But if it's $500,000 in total, and you only plan to pay that agreement over $100,000 each year, well, the way government accounting works is all 500 hits in 1 year just this time, and then you also have the pay down of that, so to speak, also. So it does skew it slightly, but that's the way this is required to be presented. A lot of these type of agreements, this was subscription arrangement, but you see this a lot in public safety, and it starts to skew those numbers. So I always want to point that out. That's not necessarily dollars all spent this year, even though it shows up that way. I'd like to skip down now to the unrestricted fund balance in the general fund. That's your unassigned and your assigned fund balance. I'd like to spend some time there. So I recognize that expenditures, whether it be with a municipality or even at home, right, that expenditures fluctuate. They're cyclical. They don't just happen even kill over the year, right? But let's just say, for instance, that in this case they did. If you took your expenditures the general fund has in a given year and you average that out, all right, this is about how much we spend per month. Well, how long could Oconee County go based on our reserve, just spending that down equated into months? And you'll see that's right at 4 months, or 33% of expenditures. That's slightly up from the prior year. You say, okay, well, you've given me this ratio. What does that mean? Well, Rushton likes to see, and a general consensus of healthy falls into that 3 to 6 month range. So y'all are falling well within that, and I think that's something to be proud of as a commission and where y'all's general fund sits. Next, I want to talk about water and sewer fund. Your revenue was about $16.2 million last year. That's up about 2.1 million, or roughly 15.5% over the prior year. You'll see what's driving that there, the increase in water charges and sewer charges. No, that's not all just price increases. That's the thing. There was a small increase, but a lot of that's going to be driven by consumption, additional users, things of that nature. Usually sewer rates you're going to see consistency there, increased water, increased sewer rates. That's why those are so even. Operating expenses were around $11.9 million, or roughly a $1.8 million increase. Cost of doing, if you haven't been to the grocery store lately, cost of doing everything has gone up. That includes cost of water. But the cost of producing that has gone up about $1.1 million over the prior year. That includes the cost of the personnel to produce that, and even your depreciation's increased. So think about that, like the residual expenditure of long-term purchases is depreciation. Everything today costs more than it did 20 years ago, right? So naturally, you're going to see increased depreciation over the prior year as those higher cost items start getting depreciated in the current years, as opposed to the older items that roll off as their useful life has come to an end. Net operating income overall, though, is around $4.2 million. That does not include what you're paying down on debt, things of that nature, but operations was about $4.2 million in net income. All right. Next, wanted to talk a little bit about SPLOST and T-SPLOST. So y'all have two SPLOST. You're collecting on just the newest one, but you've got two SPLOST there with still active dollars being spent. But $215,000 was spent on projects within the county on the 2015 SPLOST. And then you'll see the 2021 SPLOST there. $5.1 million was spent on projects within Oconee County. Of that $5 million, roughly $2 million was spent on road infrastructure. So quite a bit of investment there. You'll also see what's also getting distributed to your cities and towns there below. And then Oconee also has the 2022 T-SPLOST referendum. So that $8.7 million, again, that's all going towards that transportation. So you couple that with that amount spent towards transportation and SPLOST, there's significant investment there in Oconee County and specifically road infrastructure. All right, so I talked about our audit opinion letter is the first of 3 letters you would see in the report. That was the one up front where we had the clean opinion. The second letter is our report on internal controls, compliance, and other matters. So it's important to distinguish that we give an opinion on your financial statements, right? We give consideration to your internal controls. You could ask any of your staff that we work with during the audit, and we make them jump through hoops in this part right here. Whether it be pulling support for the hundreds of invoices we request or pulling backup for whether it be personnel files, whatever the case may be. That's where the bulk of a lot of the audit comes into play. We look for things of, I like to use the phrase, is anybody wearing too many hats, right? You got one person doing too much. That's where you open yourself up for risk for fraud or more risk. Not saying there is any, but the more one person does, the more risk there's there. So that's the type of thing we're doing when we're looking through your internal controls. And then obviously, if we find something, we say, hey, we think you could fine tune a process in a certain way to reduce risk in the county. We would make those recommendations. Those that are familiar with the report from last year know in the past, since we've been doing your audit, we've had recommendations for the county. And you'll see here, I want to make sure we point this out. So this year, we have no recommendations from a standpoint of, you see the varying degrees. Material weakness means something we found that, hey, we really need to get this fixed. This is a problem. Had none of those. Significant deficiencies is the next step down. Had none of those as well this year. And we're even looking for matters of non-compliance. And that's like if you've got money that needs to be spent in a certain way and you haven't spent it accordingly, that's where we would flag this here. You've gone over budget, things of that nature. So no recommendations from the audit on an internal control standpoint. And I think that's something that's not a finance thing. That's a county-wide thing that y'all should be proud of. All right. So I mentioned that single audit, the special audit on the federal funds. So in years that you have those, we also look at the internal controls around those type things. Same thing. We did not find any weaknesses in the way that works. It may be something as simple as you've received a large grant for a certain project, and those dollars, maybe the grant required that when that money is spent, it's required to be just bid out. Something as simple as that. We go through that process, verify that y'all have done what you're supposed to there. We look to make sure there's no weaknesses around that process. And again, we didn't have any recommendations after looking at that. And if you're curious, what caused this single audit in this year is considered your major program, what was driving the audit, and that y'all had a clean water grant that y'all spent roughly 1.8 of the $2.2 million in total federal dollars spent in the county in fiscal year 25. That was all related to clean water. $1.8 million was related to clean water grants. All right, so now some of the boring stuff that we're required to pass on. So I mentioned that we'd like to audit the way Rushton wants to, right? We don't. We have to audit the way GASB, the Accounting Standards Board, says we have to. Well, they're all, the last 20 years they've been busy, and think about it, like no audit is ever as easy as the current one because they're always making new rules you have to follow and law changes you have to implement. So this year, GASB 101, they changed the way we account for compensated absences. That's a fancy way of saying vacation time that an employee has that you owe, right? At the end of the year, if an individual's got 8 hours of time and they're worth a certain amount of dollars, that's a liability on y'all's books because you owe it. GASB's tweaked the way that we have to account for that. One thing I did not mention earlier is that if any of y'all have actually read the full report, it doesn't take a genius to know that government accounting is a bit complex, and I think they the state muddies the water. Sometimes I wonder if it's for job security, but if you're not quite sure what you're looking at, I always say to go look at the note disclosures. The notes is where it describes in word form what you're seeing in the numbers and a little bit of background on that. So the reason I bring that up is there's a note disclosure about new accounting policies that get implemented. So you would see that, and it goes a little bit into detail on what GASB 101 was and what we've done about it. GASB 102 was also implemented. It's the way certain risks are disclosed. We look for those risks that GASB says to look for, and then if we find them, we talk about how to mitigate them. This did not affect y'all, but it lets you know that, hey, we're looking at these changes to make sure y'all are in compliance. So we had 2 for the current year, and then we're going to talk about some that are coming down the line. GASB 103 financial reporting model improvements. Very early on in the audit, in the financial statements, you'll see what's called the MD&A. That's the management discussion and analysis that the county produces. It's another overview of the county. This basically puts some additional parameters around that, guardrails that says this is what's supposed to be in there and this is what's not. And it's in an effort to streamline what you see across government reporting. And that'll be a next year implementation. And we've got GASB 104. This changes the way we disclose certain capital assets. So you'll see down below in here, GASB 87 talks about leases, and GASB 94 talked about public partnerships and availability payment arrangements. This is pretty common. So when they come out with new laws or new standards, there's a lot of times there's a follow-up that says, hey, you've implemented something, let's go tweak this to make sure everybody's on the same page. So 104 goes into a little bit more detail about how 87 and 94 gets disclosed in the notes. So again, when the time comes, we'll make sure that the county's in compliance with those standards as well. And there's Clay Pilgrim. I'm sure y'all recognize him. He couldn't make it this year, so y'all got me. But I've been the manager on y'all's engagement now since Rushton's been doing y'all's audit. But I always say this: if he ends up coming next year, please make sure y'all give him a hard time. If y'all seen Clay recently, he doesn't look like that anymore. He's lost a hair or two. But always point that out. But again, there's our contact information. But y'all have any questions? I know we went over a lot there. Yes, sir.
And I may have missed it. What is the dollar amount in the assigned fund balance and unassigned?
Dollar in total, or you mean like what makes it up?
What I want the number that you got in there.
Yes, sir. Let's go back to that.
I missed it.
Yep, I like to spend a little bit. This is the one where so you'll see the $13.1 million is the unassigned assigned total. That's in your general fund. That's where I like to spend some time on that. Well, how far does that actually go? That's where you see it in months. Again, that sign of health is if it falls in the 3 to 6 months range. But again, you'll see the increase over the prior year. The months are very, very close. The percentage is very, very close, but it was a pretty good, what is that? $1.6 million. There were some additional costs this year. We mentioned like the capital outlay, the subscription arrangement, where the way accounting standards work with governments, it all hits in 1 year. So even that comes into play as to why your expenditures have risen. Not that your expenditures wouldn't have risen. Again, things over last year cost more, right? But we see this big increase in fund balance, but why didn't that correlate to more months, so to speak? And that's part of why. But that's the number I think you're looking for, is that $13 million is the unassigned and assigned fund balance. Yes, that's right. It's actually the bulk of it. It's really a play on words, and it goes back to that complex, the accounting weeds. So there's certain funds that cannot report unassigned fund balance. It's required to be labeled assigned, even though it technically is. So it gets lumped together in that way. Now you could have something like assigned fund balance that's, let's say we're doing the audit this year and we already know that you've budgeted some fund balance for next year. Well, we're not going to sit here and say that this is completely unassigned money. You've already earmarked it, so to speak, next year. We'll move that from unassigned to assigned, but I think it's around $10 million. I can find that in here, but you mentioned 9. I think it's a little bit higher there.
28% of the 33% is truly unassigned.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, and I always want to make sure I mention this, but we're your auditor year round, even though we're only on site a few weeks a year. But pleasure working with your staff. Y'all do a good job, and we appreciate working with y'all.
Now we'll move into our hearings and actions on zoning matters. During this part of the meeting, the rezone petition shall be presented by the county staff with no time limit. The applicant and those signing up to speak for the petition shall be allowed a total of 20 minutes, less the applicant's reserved for rebuttal. And those signing up to speak against the petition shall also be allowed a total of 20 minutes. The public comment section will then be closed, and the board will ask questions as they find appropriate, and then the board shall take action as set out in the Unified Development Code. With that, we'll move to our first rezone case, which is rezone request P 25-0200, Wallace and Lauren Miller. This is a request to modify conditions of an existing rezone number 3903, which is 4.45 acres at 1040 Bridlegate Drive.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Again, this is rezone P 25-0200, Wallace and Lauren Miller, applicants owner. It's parcel C 06A022, currently zoned AR3 in the agricultural preservation character area. And the request is to change conditions to the previous zoning case 3903, which was what the zoning to AR3, to modify conditions. The changes requested are to modify the condition number 4 to revise and remove the rear platted buffer that had a radius of 400 feet from active poultry houses. This is the recorded plat you have in your application packet, the concept plan showing the existing buffer line that is proposed to be moved back to this red line. These are the pictures of the adjacent poultry houses as they exist today, and are inactive. And staff recommends conditional approval with our 1 standard condition. Number 2, condition number 4 of rezone 3903 is revised as follows. A 75-foot wide building setback line shall be platted on all exterior boundaries of the subdivision. The Planning Commission recommended approval with the same conditions. Thank you.
Mark Campbell.
Good evening, Mark Campbell, Carter Engineering, 1010 Commerce Drive, Bogart, Georgia. Again, it's pretty straightforward. I appreciate the help from planning staff here on this one. I'm happy to talk about chicken houses as much as y'all would like to talk about chicken houses or answer any questions about, Commander Wallace Miller, who's a naval aviator currently working at the Naval Academy up in Maryland. He and his wife Lauren have bought this property. They want to build a forever home here. They'd like to be able to use as much of that 4.5 acres as they can. Chickens were in those houses 20 years ago. There hadn't many chickens in those houses in the last decade, so that's part of the reason we're asking for this rezoning condition. Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak for the rezone? Does anyone wish to speak against? All right, with that, we'll close public comments. Any questions from Commissioner? We'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve rezone P 25-0200, Wallace and Lauren Miller request to modify conditions of an existing rezone number 3903, 4.45 acres, 1040 Bridgegate Drive residential with the 2 conditions.
We have a motion and second for approval of rezone P 25-0200 with 2 conditions. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item is rezone request P 25-0205. It's Office Partners LLC. This is a request to modify the conditions of an existing rezone, which was P 21-0108, 13.536 acres, 1150 Champions Way, 1300 Champions Way, 1350, 1430, 1560, 1630, and 1625, along with 1575 and 1255.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Again, this is rezone P 25-0205 office, Oconee Office Partners LLC, applicant and owner. These are the parcels in the application packet, currently zoned OBP in the regional center. And the request is to modify the condition of existing rezone P 21-0108 to allow an increase in the total allowed building area from 86,000 square feet to 105,000 square feet. This is a recorded plat in your application, the concept plan showing the additional square footage of the buildings, architectural representation, and staff recommends conditional approval with our 3 standard conditions. Number 4, all building facade materials shall be brick, stone, or glass as shown in the first and third representative architectural images submitted in the narrative of the application. No metal siding shall be permitted on any building in the development. Number 5, at the time of development of each lot, sidewalks shall be extended from the proposed private road to connect with sidewalks around each building. Number 6, all lots within development shall only have vehicular access to the proposed interior street, except for any required fire or emergency access road. Number 7, total building area for all lots shall not exceed 105,000 square feet. Number 8, the private sewer collection system in connection to a public system manhole shall be certified complete by Water Resources prior to issuance of a CO for any building. Number 9, the development shall be limited to the previously approved 86,000 square feet of building area until a second entrance is constructed to meet the requirements for 2 fire apparatus access point roads, unless all buildings are equipped throughout with approved automatic sprinkler systems. Number 10, any proposed emergency access to Venn Drive, a private road, shall require a revised final plat to remove the no access easement and provide an emergency access egress easement from the property to Venn Drive right away at the property owner's expense. The Planning Commission recommends approval with the same conditions. Thank you.
Kevin Price.
I'm Kevin Price, owner and developer of the project. Could you put that plat back up that'll show that rear entrance, please? As you recall, when we rezoned this a couple of years ago, we had septic systems. And then we came back and worked out connecting to the county sewer. And we have put that sewer system in at our expense. And that'll be coming on board real soon. We're about to go for the final inspection with the water resource on that system. The benefit to this economically to the county, when we go from 86,000 square feet up to 105, is obviously the increased property taxes that comes in there, comes into play with that. But also it does help us to the extent to have some flexibility. Not all people are going to want to have 10, 12,000 square foot buildings. Some are 7 or 8, but it gives us the flexibility. But we are limited on the high side for each lot of probably up to about 12. So it'll be real close to whether we really get to that 105. I'll say I and my design team, Joe Moon, Relove Land Planning, we were a little caught off guard with this ask from the reviewer to come up with this second entrance. But thank goodness on this property up, I'm sorry, let's see, it's right there. There's the ability to run out of the back of that lot onto Venn Drive, and that's what we're going to do. But you know, we just had a different opinion, and no more than that's going to be. We just accept that and roll on. So that's really all that I've got to say about it. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak for the rezone? Anyone wish to speak against? With that, we'll close public comments. Any questions from commissioners? We're ready for a motion.
Make a motion to approve rezone B25-0205 Oconee Office Partners LLC request to modify the conditions of an existing rezone B21-0108 13.536 acres, 1150 Champions Way, 1300 Champions Way, 1350 Champions Way, 1430 Champions Way, 1560 Champions Way, 1630 Champions Way, 1625 Champions Way, 1575 Champions Way, and 1255 Champions Way commercial with 10 conditions.
We have a motion and second to approve rezone request P25-0205 with 10 conditions. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item is rezone request P25-0209. This is Meredith Chapman and Ronald Chapman. This is rezone from AG to AR3, 6 acres at 1810 Elder Mill Road.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Again, this is rezone P25-0209, Meredith and Ronald Chapman. It's parcel B09026A, currently zoned AG in the Agricultural Preservation Character Area. And the request is to rezone the 6 acres from AG to AR3 to create 2 lots. This is a recorded plat in your application packet. The concept plan showing the 2 3-acre lots. Architectural images. And staff recommends denial of the request to rezone the 6 acres to AR3 as it does not comply with the joint comprehensive plan. However, if the board chooses to approve the rezone, staff recommends the following condition, our one standard condition. The planning commission recommended approval subject to the one condition. Thank you.
Jacob Holland. Does Jacob Holland sign up to speak? Does anybody, is that? You come on up, yeah. Okay.
Good evening, y'all. Bear with me. I'll try to keep my thoughts together here. A little nervous, but really,
Just tell everybody who
name's-
you are.
I'm Tyler Chapman. I live at 1810 Elder Mill Road. My wife is Lee Chapman. We are basically asking this. We're looking to try to rezone this, as you know, from AR to agriculture AR3. Be honest with you, I've lived in the county for almost 50 years myself. My wife's lived here her whole life. We raised 3 kids here. And the gist of what we're doing, be honest with you, I'm not trying to rezone this for any kind of financial gain or anything. Only thing we're trying to do here is I'm trying to give 3 acres of land to my daughters so they can build a house and stay in the county. Let me try and, like I said, keep my thoughts together, but being able to rezone this will give them opportunity to stay. I think everybody here knows how much it costs to live in the county now. And we appreciate everything the planning board and commission did. And I have no problems with what their recommendations were. We plan on abiding by that. I mean, everything we put in the concept plan, we would abide by. We wouldn't, no plans to alter anything. I would originally, there's adjacent property that's already 50-something acres already adjacent to us that's zoned AR3. There's several other plots within a mile of us that are already AR3. And there's actually a couple of plots probably within a quarter mile that are AR, they're probably 2 acres or less. I feel like even though it may not fit in the county's comprehensive plan here, I do feel like, it's the very definition of what AR3 zoning is, what we're trying to do here. And I just ask that y'all would, consider that. Like I said, I'm not doing this for any kind of monetary gain. I'm just doing this to try to help my daughter, my son-in-law, and my grandkids be able to stay in the county. And I appreciate y'all's time.
Thank you. Jacob.
Good evening. My father-in-law is Tyler Chapman, kind of just doubling down on what he said. He's lived here. They've owned that land for about 30 years or so. My wife grew up on that land, and we would love to raise our 2 daughters here and any future kids. And this gives us an opportunity to do that. Oconee County is, not easy to get into as young individuals. And this gives us that opportunity to keep our family here and raise them in the schools and use the recreation facilities that we spoke about. But that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak for the rezone? We have Mark Costello.
My name is Mark Costello, and I own 1800 Elder Mill. If you look at the plat, you can see, I guess in 1997, I have a copy of it if you'd like it. But in 1997, that was apparently 28 acres. And it was cut out into a 6-acre tract, a 12-acre tract, and can I approach? 6-acre tract, 12-acre tract. And I own.
Here, can you pull that up? Yes.
So in any case, I bought the property about 2 years ago. The house was in disrepair and there was, let's just say I got about 10, 30-yard roll-off dumpsters off the property. So I've cleaned it up. But what I'm up against is it's basically 2 flag lots. And where it says 12.027 acres, that actually is the only place to put a structure or house on that particular lot. That strip that goes around the 10 acres, you can see there's an existing house there. That is a ravine. You'd have to jump down into the ravine, cross the creek, go up a hill, and then cross Little Rose Creek to get to the back portion of that property. So essentially, I spoke with planning about what I could do before I purchased the property. And I was told that basically they've met their splits. They can't really be split and they can't go below 5 acres. What I could do is reduce the 12.027 acres to about a 6-acre tract, which would create enough buffer for the house that's existing, and it would clean up that situation that I have where you really can't access the back part of that property if I keep these plats exactly the same as it is. I had it perked, it perks right there where the 12 acres is. I would prefer to keep with the area. I would prefer to sell that tract. That thing is a whole tract, 22 acres. It's an absolutely beautiful piece of property with beautiful hardwoods, and Little Crows Creek is absolutely beautiful. I think it should stay that way. And the majority of the properties in that area are larger tracts, 70 acres, even the 50-acre tract next door, that's AR3, is actually 3 larger tracts. And part of the reason is the terrain. I think it's been set with a road and cul-de-sac in it for many years. But the main concern, I think, there is that the terrain really doesn't allow for smaller tracts. So it's been 3 tracts in the Hardegree family for however long it's been. But my concern would be that I already have a situation where I have 2 tracts that have flag lots, 60-foot long driveways to get back to it. I have to pass another house already to do that. And now they're proposing to split the 6-acre tract, which I was under the impression couldn't be done, and put another house there. So if I have to put a house on the 12 acres, now I'm standing next door. I have next door neighbors in a rural area that I really shouldn't have next door neighbors because there should be larger tracts. So it creates that bit of an issue. Another issue for me is now I've got basically 4 driveways in a row to get back rather than the 1 driveway, some space, and then my 2 driveways. Currently, I have it as 1 driveway and there's a gate there. And I've kept the tract for I've had it almost 2 years because it's in the CUVA program, conservation use. And I really would prefer to sell it as a whole, but if I don't also want to spend $60,000 to break the CUVA to sell it as a separate. So I would prefer to sell it as a whole. Now, I have told Mr. Chapman that I would sell him that portion and it would solve the problem for him. Of course, I understand the cost factor of it because Oconee County land is highly cherished. I think it's a noble cause what he's doing. I'd love to have my daughter in my backyard. I'm up against that right now. She's getting married and she's gonna probably move away. But if I could build her a house in my backyard, I'd do it just to keep her here. But I just think that it doesn't fit the area. If it were shaped differently, I probably wouldn't have a problem with it. But to create another driveway there and you have to have a maintenance easement for his well, which is located on that line right there. It just seems like it it's going to create a problem for me on sale, I do believe, to, if I choose to sell it or when I choose to sell it, to have, it's already odd, and now you're adding another house there on top of it. So I feel like, in a different circumstance, it wouldn't be a problem. But based on the actual survey that's there and the shape of the property and what we've got, I just don't see it as being a good approval. And again, with the area, I mean, there's really nice homes and farms in the area, and they're all on larger tracts. And again, I've done everything in my power to try and hang on to this thing to get it to be able to sell it as a whole. And currently I'm, it's for sale. It could be for sale. And I would work with them to sell a portion of that property. But again, I've got to deal with the fee for breaking the CUVA program, which is substantial. But again, like I said, it's nothing against them. It's basically the situation. And then not only that, but if we approve this here, what would stop me from trying to say, okay, I got 22 acres. Does that mean I can get 7 lots out there on that and then put in a road and build a subdivision on that piece of property? I don't want to do that. I don't think it's the right thing over there. The biggest issue is 3 driveways in a row right there, and then having to pass 3 houses to get to that 4th existing house that's there. And I'm trying to eliminate that by, again, selling it as a whole. So before I start getting redundant, I just think that it's, I might not have bought the property if I'd have known that this might have happened, because it's got its challenges and I've got to fix it to make it appealing to somebody. So with that, I would ask that you not allow that rezone and keep the integrity of the area as larger properties. So thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak against? With that, we'll go ahead and close public comments. Any questions from commissioners?
Here, you want to make any comments about the area? It's been brought up twice about maybe get the comp plan and about what we're asking and what's in the area.
Sure. This is a agricultural preservation in the comprehensive plan, and the minimum lot size is at 5 acres. That's why staff recommend denial. And the majority of the lots in that area are larger lots.
I've got one. Mr. Harris, while you're there, just curious, if Mr. Chapman wanted to build a guest home, would he be allowed to do that as it is?
That's right. Yes, sir. We allow accessory dwelling units, guest houses on the same lot. There are restrictions on those and requirements for that, but it is an allowed use.
Is there a restriction on the size of the accessory?
50%. 50.
He just coughed. Say it again.
Yes, sir. 50% of the main structure.
So how large is the main structure?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay. Now, Ms. Herring, in your professional opinion, does the driveway have to be on the shared driveway to this second lot, or is there enough room for a separate driveway that doesn't share with Mr. Costello?
So what they're proposing is a flag lot. So they're proposing their own entrance to that rear lot.
So they're not going to use the shared drive?
That's right.
They're not.
There is no shared
Can you
drive.
pull up that one?
Yeah.
So there's the flag that comes right here. So they're proposing frontage here. So they could use a shared drive, but they're proposing road frontage here, which could allow for 2 driveways.
All right. So where's the driveway from Mr. Chapman's current home? Where is it? Is it off of Elder Road or?
Yes, yeah. Yeah, can you zoom into that corner right here? It doesn't appear to be shown on here. There it is, actually, right there. So this lot would have access here.
So does that well maintenance easement affect the driveway?
No, sir.
Okay.
There's room.
All right, thank you.
Got a question for you. It looks like from the survey that the well is on the other property. Is that correct?
It appears to be right on the line. Is I believe it's that small red dot. I
Yeah.
don't know.
The main part would be between the family.
Right. So the well, it would be on your new lot.
Not going to be the driveway, it's footage across there for the driveway, it's showing. We could go in on the upgrade, we talked about that, but then they talked some of, septic tank lines. So we thought, when I was doing the concept plan, that actually going in on that area, even though it would be a shared, with a well maintenance, since it was between us, I was concerned about it, they weren't concerned. We thought it was best to keep it there, plus it's also a shorter distance to get back to that property, that side of the property. We would have to disrupt more, footage and everything to go this way, we're having to disrupt that.
As far as the distance, it shows the distance at the angle, but is that 40 foot? Or is it?
I believe it. It may be a little more than that. I can't really read it at this point. Sorry.
I'm talking about the perpendicular distance from that lower corner over to the line. I know that's the angle, but I'm saying the perpendicular distance.
It would be required to be at least 40. Yes, sir.
Okay. And that may be why the well is showing where it is. What is the square footage of the proposed house? I know you had a rendering, but I didn't see a square footage.
I didn't either. He stated 2,400.
All right, I do have a question about Mr. Costello's lot, since he did bring that up. If he decided to do a driveway along I guess that would be the southern border, or where he's got an existing driveway that comes back to that house on the 10 acres. Could he do a recombination of that and make a driveway that would catch that back lot?
Yes.
Okay. So then it shouldn't affect him. He could do a recombination and then make two lots out of it that would have a driveway, both of them being on the south side.
And have an easement through one of them. Yes, sir.
An easement or permanent, I guess. All right, thank you.
We have any other questions from commissioners? I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion, we approve rezone P25 0209 Meredith L. Chapman and Ronald T. Chapman, rezone from AG to AR3, 6 acres, 1810 Elder Mill Road, residential with one condition.
Second.
We have a motion and second for approval of rezone request P 25-0209 with one condition. One condition. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
The chair votes no as well. Motion dies. Other motion?
Make a motion, we decline rezone number P 25-0209 Meredith and Ronald Chapman. Rezone from AG to AR3, 6 acres, 1810 Elder Mill Road.
A motion is second to deny rezone request P 25-0209. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. We're on our special use number P 25-0233. This is Briarwood Baptist Church. Request to modify an existing special use approval for 6983 at 17.1 acres, 1900 Robin Hood Road.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Again, this is special use P 25-0233, Briarwood Baptist Church, applicant and owner. This is B 05018. Currently zoned AG in the Community Village Character Area. The request is the applicant is requesting to modify previous condition of special use approval 6983. The requested change is to modify condition number 7 to not apply to Robin Hood Road side, to the Robin Hood Road side of the property. This is a recorded plat in your application packet, the concept plan, a slightly larger version showing the location that we're talking about, relieving the board of the condition, relieving the church of the condition. And the staff recommends conditional approval with our one standard condition, and number 2, condition number 7 of special use permit 6983 is amended for existing parking lots as follows. Number 7, the developer shall install vehicle use area screening to bring the existing parking lot into compliance with UDC Article 8 along the right-of-way of Robin Hood Road with evergreen shrubs as required. The existing trees along Robin Hood Road will meet the requirements for the required landscape strip. The shrubs may be installed at the back of existing curb within the right-of-way as needed. The Plan Commission recommended approval with the same conditions. Thank you.
Mark Campbell.
Again, Mark Campbell, Carter Engineering, here on behalf of Briarwood Baptist Church. We have Pastor Matt and leadership from the church here as well. So if you have questions about the operations of the church, I'm sure they'll be able to answer those. But again, tonight's request is really to clean up something that was left over from a rezone from 2016. That's why you see a very specifically worded condition tonight, really trying to provide some clarification. I think everybody thought we were on the same page in 2016. Most of the development at that time was kind of on that northern and western side. It wasn't anything. The existing conditions along the southern and eastern side have been there for quite some time. This clarification to the permit and the conditions there provides something so everybody's on the same page. But again, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Does anyone else wish to speak for the special use? Does anyone wish to speak against? With that, we'll close public comments. Any questions from commissioners? I believe we're ready for a motion.
I make a motion to approve special use P 25-0233 as presented with a condition.
We have a motion and second for approval of special use P 25-0233 with 2 conditions. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item is consider appointments to the Oconee County Board of Elections and Registration.
Motion we approve Sammy C. Jones, Tammy Gillen, the Board of Elections, January 1st, 2026 to 31st, 2029.
I have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item is consider appointments to the Oconee County Board of Health.
Make a motion to appoint Susanna Raines Moriarty.
Second.
A motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item will be consider appointments to the Oconee County Farmland Preservation Ranking Committee.
Make a motion, we approve Joel Burnside and Rick Garrett farmland preservation from January 1st, 2026, December 31st, 2028.
Have a motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item is consider appointments to the Keep Oconee County Beautiful Commission.
Chairman, I make a motion that we appoint Robert Legg and Sweta Doshi, with appointments to begin immediately to expire on June the 30th of 2026 to the Keep Oconee County Beautiful Commission.
Have a motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item is discuss and consider contract number 2 for the LAS decommissioning process.
Good evening, Commissioners. Just a recap from last week, the scope of services for this covers the upgrade of Oconee County's Veterans Park Station or pump station and related infrastructure to accommodate sewage received from the new Rocky Branch Road pump station, as well as gravity flow from Veterans Park and future parkside development collection systems. The upgraded system will convey these flows to the county's Calls Creek Water Reclamation Facility for treatment. This work, together with additional projects under separate contracts, will enable the Rocky Branch LAS to be decommissioned and demolished, clearing the site for construction of the planned Dawson's Park. The following is just a simple breakdown of Contract 2. Modify existing Veterans Park Station to temporarily accept flows from the LAS. Construct facilities utilizing an existing wet well at OBP to receive flows from new Rocky Branch Road Pump Station and a portion of the future Parkside development. This will convey flows to the Barber Creek Sewer Collector at Mars Hill Road and ultimately go to Calls Creek Wastewater Treatment Plant. Install new force main piping and repurpose inactive reuse water piping within the Parkside development. Contract 2 also includes provisions to transmit sewer flows from temporary pump station constructed for LAS decommissioning until Contract 1 and 2 and the Daniels Bridge Road Phase 1 upgrade are completed. It also allows for park construction. The last item is to decommission the existing OBP pump station once new facilities are online. Recommendation is to approve task order number 2026-04, which is Contract 2 with Po Boys. Financial impact is $927,490.35. This request includes all necessary budget amendments up to the contract amount for the life of the project.
Any questions for Adam? Thank you. Do we have any public comment on this item? We'll entertain a motion.
Contract 2 for the LAS decommission process. Financial impact, $927,490.
Second.
There we go. Now we can do it. We got a motion and second for approval. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We'll now move on to our discussion. Consider an intergovernmental agreement for municipal court services with the city of Bogart. Daniel?
As you know, we've been working with Bogart over the last several years to bring their ordinance kind of in the, almost identical to ours, so that we could assist in enforcing their ordinance, and we proceeded with that. One of the things that's come up is with the size of Bogart, their need for a court is kind of outweighed by the cost of running that court. So what they've asked is if we can use the magistrate as the municipal court judge, and use the facilities and get some economies of scale, with Angie Watson acting as the clerk of that court, Judge Conley acting as the judge. And Mike Pruitt and I have worked fair contract. Judge Conley signed off on it. I think everybody thinks this is the right way to go. And Gabby, I think, is really hoping that we'll adopt this so that she can have some punishment behind her coercion, trying to get people to comply with ordinances.
Any questions for Daniel on this item?
Let me make sure that they're going to, so the municipal court of Bogart will not be held in Bogart? Correct. Okay.
I suppose if he wanted to go over there and hold court, he could. But it's the person that we're talking about. We're making chief magistrate municipal.
All right. So there's no underlying law or something that it has to be held within the corporate city limits of Bogart?
As far as I know, there's not.
Okay,
If there is, he could go there and hold.
okay.
That'd be a Mike question.
Any other questions for Daniel? Do we have any public comment on this item?
And I should point out, if this doesn't work, we can terminate on 60 days. So there's a bailout provision.
The plan is to hold it at magistrate.
That's fine. I just want to make sure there wasn't some other quirk in the law.
Good. We'll entertain a motion on this item.
I make a motion that we approve the intergovernmental agreement for municipal court service between the Oconee County and the city of Bogart.
Have a motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item is discuss what's called alcohol beverage ordinance amendment. Daniel?
So historically, the rule had always been that you had to have separation of 600 feet between the place where a distilled spirit, a liquor, mixed drink is sold, and a school ground, and 300 feet for beer and wine. Well, in 2021, the legislature amended that and said that's still the distance, but it is okay for counties and cities to vary that. That was the first time that ever happened. And in fact, in 2022, we changed how we measured distances, taking advantage of that change in the law. And there was an amendment y'all did in 2022 where we specified exactly how you measure. And it clarified, and I think it helped out the county folks that were dealing with this, first the clerk and then the planning department, in understanding that, when you measure distances, you went along legally permissible ways instead of straight across the road. So in working with this and with some specific instances in mind, it makes sense to make the same distance, 300 feet, for beer and wine and for mixed drinks. The real historical reason that the mixed drinks were 600 feet was because you wanted bars further away from the school grounds or church, and we don't have bars in Oconee County limit mixed drinks to restaurants at very specified circumstances. So we kind of eliminated what they were working at on that. So I prepared an amendment that would specify that distance between any establishment selling beer, wine, and distilled spirits would be 300 feet, measured the way we measure, which is what I would think of as just a practical way to go from the front door of a restaurant to a sidewalk or to a street, down the street legally, and across it on the crosswalk if you're walking, or if you're driving into a drive. So we'd have a consistent set of distances. Some places, one of the things that happened that caused this amendment were shorefront churches in downtowns. So you'd have a restaurant and all of a sudden you'd have a church next to it. That would cause issues with distance requirement. Some places they've said you don't have a distance requirement, but I think this one makes sense. 300 feet, it's what's always been in place for beer and wine. Oh, and I should say, because the liquor license, all the alcoholic beverage licenses are up for renewal now, and there is some specific parties impacted by this. As part of your motion, you should find that you have decided to suspend your rules of order to adopt this tonight, which your rules of order specifically allow. We have a practice that we do, an advertisement and 2 readings, but your rules of order contemplate, and you have on occasion, enacted things as soon as they're heard. And Mr. Chairman, the only thing the rules of order say about that, if there's public comment, you have to allow public comment.
Any questions for Daniel?
Daniel, I didn't have a chance to contact you ahead of time. The the copy of the amendment that you sent us did not specify the change from 600 to 300 feet. Is that,
Deleted 600 and put 300 in its place.
or I didn't see that in what you sent us.
Well, go back on the.
In case it's in another page.
Yeah, it's in, if you look on F, the second paragraph, the second line, the 1, 2, 3, fifth word, 300.
Wait a minute, maybe,
Look in Article 1.
I'm just reading the amendment you sent.
Yeah, Article 1 of the amendment.
All right,
Look in the, I guess it'd be the third paragraph of Article 1 in the second line.
I don't see it. Okay, all right, I just didn't see it. Oh, the fine print. I said you have to read the fine print. All right, thank you. Or bigger, yeah, I read it on my phone. Thank you.
Any other questions from Commissioner? Do we have any public comment on this item?
Hello, my name is Martha Rodriguez, and I am one of the owners of Costa Alegre in Watkinsville. I haven't had the pleasure of meeting all of you, but I want to share with you how bad it would impact our business if this amendment does not get accepted. As a resident of Oconee County for over 20 years, my family and I have decided to live our dream here and start our own business. And the primary reason of why we're doing it here is because Oconee County is all about community. And so we are happy and thankful to know that you hear us, that you see us, and that you see our situation of not how this wouldn't just impact us from one day to another, but it would have larger consequences for somebody like us. We're little people, but in a big community. And that's all that matters for us, that we have a community behind us and that we know that our elected officials see us, hear us, and support us. So I just want to say thank you.
Any other comments tonight?
Hello, good evening. Thank you for taking the time to hear us out. My name's Ramon. My son Junior is right there. We own Temes Barbecue. We're neighbors of Costa Alegre with Rudy and Martha. And I would like for you guys to consider that it would definitely impact the way we just try to make a living. It's been a process for us. We moved in December. At the time, I called about trying to get the laws and stuff about what I could and could not do. I called last December on the phone. I don't know who I spoke to in the county, and they told me that long as I met the requirements, that everything would be fine. And we reached out to Tradition Surveys, which does all the surveys for the plots and the distances between the schools and the businesses and stuff. And I remember him telling me at the beginning when I called him was, because I was like, hey, you know, I got to get this done so I could get approved for the beer and liquor license. He told me, I told him, I said, how much are you going to charge me, you know, to get it done? And also, do you think that will get approved considering where we're at, right? And according to the gentleman that helped me, that did the survey, he was like, I don't see why you wouldn't, because your neighbor, you know, already sells alcohol and everybody else around there does as well. And according to the ordinance or the conditions, we fit in to get approved. And he said, the gentleman from Tradition said that if he felt that I wouldn't get approved, he wouldn't even do the survey for me because he didn't want me to spend that money knowing that I was not going to get approved. So when we did it, everything was good. I got the paperwork. I submitted it to the county in March because it took a little while for him to do what he had to do. Then in March, I was notified that the ordinance had changed that December last year, and that I needed 50 parking spaces. We had a variance last month with you guys, and you guys approved it. We were good. So we were all under the assumption that we were going to get the alcohol license, and we did get approved to get the beer license, but then we got hit with the no distilled drinks because of it. And I just wanted you guys to take in consideration, this is a small business. You know, I've lived here all my life, well, since '96, raised my kids here. They all graduated from North Oconee, love this place. And we want to continue to serve the community and provide good barbecue. And hopefully some of you guys could come and get some good brisket. But we would really, really appreciate it if you guys help us out here. All right, thank you.
Any other public comment? All right, with that, we'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Do we need to suspend the rules?
Yeah, I'm gonna,
Okay, you gonna do that?
asking to suspend the rules of order and make a motion to pass the modification of the alcohol ordinance.
Second.
Have a motion second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Does any commissioner wish any item to be removed from the consent agenda? All right, we'll entertain a motion.
Motion, we approve the consent agenda as submitted.
Second.
Have a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
And just announced, this is our last meeting of 2025, so Merry Christmas to everybody. Commissioner Saxon,
Motion adjourned.
Second.
we are adjourned.